Welcome to the UK OCR Community Podcast, presented by Obstacle Racing Media. Each episode, we'll be talking to race directors, elite runners, weekend warriors, and frankly, anyone else from the UK OCR scene that will talk to us. Here is your host, Alan, aka Muddy Duck.
Anywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody scene is bloody sad. The bloody news is bloody.
Welcome to the UK. Oops, no, Chuffing L. No, what do I say? Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, I've got Will Chung on, Mr. Blooper of them all. Will.
Cheeky.
We were talking about bloopers before, and you had me completely confused, and I was going to go in with the blooper, and I thought, no, you're going to get me. So, yeah, I had to still do it. So, Will, Mr. Tough Mudder Ambassador, you must have been right on the top of their list when they brought the ambassador list out this year.
Well, I would say yes, just because I'm a golden ambassador, so it's not as if they can chuck me off, really. So I guess I was on the list anyway. Yeah.
So it's great to have you on. It's great for you that you're an ambassador again. You know me, I love everything you do for Tough Mudder. I hope Tough Mudder love everything you do for them as well. But we are doing this mini series on the podcast. And it wouldn't have been the same to talk about any Tough Mudder without getting you on to talk about one. And we'd already got the Midlands, and I know you're from the Midlands, but we all got Richard on to talk about the Midlands. And I know you like to go to Scotland, but I got Kevin on. I'm not having you talking about Yorkshire because you're not a Yorkshireman, or a Yorkshireman, so there's no way can you talk about Yorkshire. So I thought we'd go London West with you.
Yeah, I mean, London. I love London West, and you know what? It's a shame that they wasn't able to sort out Northwest this year. So for 2025, and I was just talking to Kieran about this earlier, but 2015 was my first Tough Mudder, and Northwest was my first Tough Mudder, and it would have just been really perfect to have been able to go back to Northwest. But hopefully, I know they've had some issues. Hopefully, it'll be back on the calendar next year. Same with Manchester, but London West. That also has a special place in my heart. I think it has a special place in a lot of the ambassadors and the legionnaires' hearts because it's the first Tough Mudder of the season, and it's after that really cold, hard winter, and then we get into spring, and then it's kind of April, May time. You go, yes, Tough Mudder's back, and then you get to the hills of Henley, and then everyone goes, oh, hilly Henley. So yeah, Tough Mudder London West. What do you want to know?
Well, first of all, it's on the 10th and 11th of May. It's on that, so it's a full weekend. And when you look at all the Tough Mudders that are coming up, there isn't many this year. When I've looked at that have got so much going off as what London West has. Not only do we have a full weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but we have 15k and 5k on both days. Little Mudder. And we have got Europe's toughest Infinity. It's going to be packed.
It's going to be amazing. Both London events are always packed. London South maybe a little bit more so, but London West it just starts with a bang. And as you said, it's a full weekend. It's got Little Mudder. It's got the 10k, 15k. It's got the 5k. It's got the very first Europe's toughest Mudder Infinity, which I'm all for. When they did this a few years ago, was it in San Francisco when they had the Infinity through the day, or the 12-hour through the day? I thought, that would be so good if we could have that in the UK. Then we got Infinity, which is 8 hours, and I thought, well, this is as good as it gets. But to now have 12 hours through the day, May should be warm. We're hoping that June is going to be warm as well, but May should be warm, and it's just going to be absolutely. The atmosphere is going to be just absolutely amazing. And having I'm already lost for words because I'm just so excited about it. But just being out on course for that long, and when you're going on Infinity, you have so many mudders that are kind of cheering you on. And Bobby, the MC, and the other MCs, and Dave, and everyone else who are kind of getting people off on the course. They'll always say, look out for the people in the bibs. They're on course for 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, or whatever. And so whenever you're going around, maybe on your second or third lap, people are always so in awe and just clapping you on. And that, for me, is why I love Infinity. And Europe's toughest Mudder Infinity going for 12 hours is just going to be on an absolute another level.
Too right. And it's part of the Holy Grail series. the first time you're going to be able to get it by just running in the UK. Normally you've got to go to the States for these things, or Europe. You can do the Holy Grail just in the UK this year.
You know what? I'd not even thought about that, and you're absolutely right. And it's downstairs. For those Tough Mudder, Legionnaires and the Tough Mudder honks, this is the time to get that coveted Holy Grail. I know you're going for it, but it's such a fantastic piece of bling, and I think from how it's evolved to kind of the thing that we got last year, it's amazing. And I saw we've had Ruth Baxter on the Ruth Battersea on the podcast before, and how she's just put her medals up, and she's got her Holy Grail front and center. It's just amazing. And for so many people, because of course when you're speaking to people going to America and trying to do World's Toughest Mudder, it's not only is it expensive, of course it's expensive, but the amount of time you need to kind of get to go out there and actually enjoy being out in America. But to do this in the UK, so many UK mudders will have this golden opportunity. Hopefully it comes back again, and next year, year after. I personally hope that maybe we go backwards and forwards, so every other year, maybe UK, US. But this is the chance for everyone that said, "Oh, if only it came to the UK." This is it, and Europe's Toughest Infinity is that step towards that Holy Grail for everybody. And doing a 12-hour in the day, so much more fun than doing 12 hours overnight. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Without a doubt. I looked on the Tough Mudder website a little bit earlier on, and one thing I did note, and I haven't seen this on a Tough Mudder website for a while, is they are saying for Europe's Toughest Infinity that they are down to their final tickets. Now, I don't know how many their final tickets are. I don't know if it's 100, 200 or whatever. But even at Europe's Toughest Mudder, I have never seen final tickets. And it's saying on their website at this moment in time, final tickets available for it. That's going to be a first. That tells you how important this race is.
Well, it's funny, and I absolutely agree. And I'm a marketer. You know me. I'm digital marketing manager, marketing by trade. I don't think this is really any kind of that marketing hype where you say, "Oh, tickets are going soon. You better get in." When I've spoken to Giles, they've said that ticket sales have gone so much better than they expected, and I think it is this, because you've got World's Toughest Mudder here, that they go, "Okay, Holy Grail, I'm going to get all of them." I think part of it as well is, of course, you've got the full mudders going off on course, and the 5K is going off, of course. So maybe it's not going to be quite the big hundreds that you get at Europe's Toughest Mudder, because you've got the space to be able to do that. But let's say 500 people doing it, or something like that. That in itself is absolutely amazing. Even if it's 400. So I honestly don't think it's a marketing gimmick. And so if people are listening to this and thinking, "Oh, I really ought to get my ticket soon," yeah, I think you really ought to get your very soon. Otherwise, you may be missing out.
Definitely. So I've never done London West, so I'm going to pick your brains. I want to know about it. You mentioned earlier on that there's going to be hills. Compared to let's say, I always think Yorkshire's hilly. Compared to Yorkshire, are we talking more hills, less hills, more elevation?
Well, I can't believe you asked that, and I can't believe I didn't look. So, Tough Mudder London West, and I've got that in front of me. It's about 400 meters total elevation over the 10 miles. I'm gonna look for Mudder York talk. But I think on a par, it's probably about a similar amount of elevation.
Now, 400 meters, for anyone who wants to know what that is, compared to if you do fell running. If you do a 10-mile fell run, that will come under medium level of toughness. So we're talking about, this is not a walk in the park. If we've got 400 meters over approximately 10 miles, that's medium level fell running. So that's some decent elevation.
So I'm just looking here from a few years ago, for the Yorkshire for the 10K, 200 meters of elevation. I did. Sorry, this is going back as well. So this must be a 10 and a 15K. That was just under 400 meters elevation. So Henley, probably hillier, because
Wow.
you're actually going up and down. Where Yorkshire, you're basically doing one big climb on. If you remember, you're basically doing one big climb to the top of that hill and then starting to make your way back. That's traditionally how Yorkshire has been. But with London West, you've got a little bit of flat there, and they've only just introduced this first little bit of flat for about half a mile to a couple of kilometers, and then all of a sudden you start to climb. And so you climb a couple of big hills, and then down those couple of big hills, and then you kind of get to the side. We'll talk about it in a little while, but basically you've got 4 climbs at London West, as you did last year, compared to generally that one big climb in Yorkshire. So that's why I think possibly people think Yorkshire's hillier, because you're just taking all of that elevation all on go.
Wow. So if you I know you're going to go and do Europe's toughest. If you're doing it, and I'm going to assume they're going to have the 5K option and the 15K option each lap. I'm going to assume that. We're not sure yet because we don't know the final standings. Would you be looking at the 5K, or does the 5K take you up the hills as well?
The 5K does take you up the hills as well, and that's the interesting thing that's going to happen. That yes, of course, it's going to be a shorter route, but kind of kilometre for kilometre or mile for mile, you might actually have more elevation over this. You definitely, as you always know, you always have more of the obstacle mile for mile on the 5K. Generally, and anyone's done before. Generally, it's always been better the longer stuff, because you've got a bit running to kind of make up your time across it. And I think for Henley, that's probably the case as well.
Yeah, cool. So talk us through the course. What are people going to expect?
Hills. That's it. It's known as Hilly Henley because it's, and you know what? Part of me was, well, it's the first one of the season. No one's used to the hills again. Of course, they call it Hilly Henley, but it's not. You look at the elevation, and it is almost more than the other Tough Mudder courses. So hills. One thing you don't get, well, let me ask you, what makes this unique out of all the other Tough Mudder courses in the UK and probably the world?
Oh, it is actually west of London, and it is what it says. It's on the tin.
It actually is west of London. It's Henley, so it's just off the Thames, but it's as close to London as you'd probably get.
Yep. I don't know. Tell me what's unique about it. Oh, no mud mile.
No mud mile. So Hilly Henley is on quite rocky ground. So there's hardly any mud at all at this particular Tough Mudder. So the only little bits that you kind of have mud mile, it's not mud mile. It's just a big pit of water, and that's it. That's the kind of the substitute for mud mile at Henley. And I think it is pretty much the only big course, as it were, that doesn't have a mud mile, just because there's nowhere that they can really dig to get to them.
So what we're saying then, in theory, it's going to benefit a runner. So it's a runner's course. It's going to be fairly dry. With it being rocky, it's going to dry fairly quickly. No mud, which means if you're a good runner and you can run long distances, you're going to be able to put big mileage in.
Well, it's that mix, isn't it? I agree with that, but because of the hills, you've got to have strength in your legs. There's some awesome views at the top, but it is relatively dry. It's a bit of everything. So you're running through trail, you're running through forest, you're kind of going on some really nice kind of fire trails, as it were, uphill, downhill. But yeah, the only thing that you don't actually have at this one is the mud. But some of the downhills as well. Absolutely, you can absolutely fly down some of these downhills, and actually, even if you trip, you're just rolling across the grass, and you're pretty safe to really attack those downhills as well. It's so much fun. I'm a big fan of London West just because of the way that they lay out the course, but there are some parts that are flat. So let's go out. The first part is flat, and then you're straight up a hill. Generally, it's really, really kind of steep and short, sharp hill. Around the corner is generally mud, kiss of mud first. Generally quite rocky and shaly, so it's really not good on your knees. And then they'll take you up a few more hills up and around. You kind of see Block Ness and some other obstacles before you go up the hill. Then down the hill, you'll get to Block Ness and those are others around then. And then you're back up another hill again. and it's really cool because it's quite compact. It's quite a closed loop, as it were. But you're climbing, then you're kind of getting to the plateau, and then you'll do a few obstacles, and then you'll go down a hill. Possibly you hit a couple of obstacles, and then you back up a hill, and you hit obstacles at the top. So it's really well laid out. And then towards the end, you're in a valley, and a couple of years ago they tried to have a gauntlet. So I think they had 5 or 6 of the major obstacles, all one after the other. So you had Everest there, Arctic Enema, Mudderhorn is always towards the end anyway. So there was several obstacles one after the other, and that was fun. But because they did that, you kind of didn't have the big major obstacles around the rest of the course. So you still have this really cool valley where, as you're kind of running towards the beginning or towards the end, you see what's going on within this valley, people finishing. But it's really fun. Generally, there's Everest, and for those, if Everest is where it normally is, please be quite careful, because it kind of tips back on yourself. So it's probably, and it has been, the hardest Everest out of the whole of the UK, just because it's on a slight incline. So it's almost as though it's coming back on you. So it's steeper than Everest would be, just because it's naturally on a little bit of an incline. It makes it so difficult. But then there's a really horrible killer gorilla just before you get to Everest as well. So you're going up and down the hill to create that TM. But I don't want to say too much, because obviously they kind of change the course round. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. I think they're going to do obviously some special things for Toughest Mudder Infinity. But there are definitely going to be some parts of the course that will always be the same. So that sharp incline very early on will be there. I'm pretty sure that Tough Mudder, the killer gorilla, that will be there again, and that is horrible. You've already done like 15 kilometers, so to then go up and down the bloody hill again, to several times, to create that TM before going down for Everest and possibly to Arctic Enema, it's nasty on the legs towards the end. But in general, the course is very runnable. Yes, there are hills. Take it easy on the hills. Enjoy the downhill. But unless it's been a huge amount of rain, it's not going to be muddy. So yeah, nice runnable course where actually you don't need big lugs. Like if you have a favorite pair of trail shoes that don't have those big lugs, you can possibly get away with it here.
Good. I like that idea. What about the event village? Is it close to everything? I know most times I've been, Alexa, I've not been to London West, but everyone I go to, we get the last couple of obstacles. Is there a good spectator route where spectators can get down? Can they get down to this valley? Can they see some of the big obstacles?
Yes, they can. There's a valley, so it's probably all from kind of the village to the end of that bit of valley is about a mile. But within that valley, as I've already mentioned, you can probably see Block Ness from there. Generally, it's going to be Everest, Kiss of Mud, Arctic Enema, and of course you walk past, or you will definitely walk under Mudderhorn, and of course Electric Shock Therapy. And I'm pretty sure it's one point in the past they used to have the pyramid scheme. You know, when they had the pyramid scheme in the water, that was also in the village for people to see as well. So from the village, I don't think it's quite as easy as some. London South is probably the most spectator friendly, but it's relatively easy for people to get to see some good obstacles. Funky Monkey generally is up on the hill, so you to see that anyways. It's normally further out, but there's some good places and good places to get some photos. And because you're in that valley, you get to see people go off. You probably see them a little bit in the middle, and then you'd see them again at the end as it kind of keeps looping back on towards that valley. So it is relatively spectator. It's not very close to the village, as it were, that you do have to walk a little bit to get to those obstacles.
Cool. Now I'm just getting into the Instagram scene. Okay, so I'm going more and more on Instagram, and you're all converting me. I know you're all talking to me and converting me. So I'm a little bit more on the Instagram scene. And I'm seeing a lot of Tough Mudder adverts this moment in time, and they are all pushing the slide again. So we saw the slide come, I think it was last year in a few races, and then it vanished because, for whatever reason it vanished. We'll not go into that. We don't need to go into that. But it vanished. But now I'm seeing it back, and I'm seeing it in slightly different formats, Will. Now I'm going to ask you, do you think we're going to get it? Do you think it's going to come back this year? And are we going to see it at London West?
Well, I don't know anything. Obviously, I do not have the ears of Tough Mudder, TMHQ. I don't have this kind of in. But I've already said they're going to do something special for Toughest. They have to. Like, they'll do something special for when Toughest Mudder goes to Midlands. They'll do something special. I think a slide. Everybody loves this. Whether you're an elite, whether you're a fun runner, whether you're going to be looping, it's probably the only thing that will keep people loop is like, I'm going to get to do that slide again. So I don't know, but I really hope it is going to be there.
Cool. I like that. Now, you're going to be travelling down there. You travel down there every year. You make a big weekend of it. Whereabouts do you stay? Which village do you stay close by? Because there's many beautiful villages around Fawley. So whereabouts do you normally stay? You don't have to give me the hotel. We don't want people rocking up just to get autographs and camping outside the paparazzi.
Okay. Oh, if only. It's okay. I've already got my hotel room anyway, so it's not as if the price is going to go up. Hang on, I'm going to. So I and some of the solo modders, we stay in High Wycombe, and it's about 15 miles away, something like that, 15, 20 miles away. And I think Reading is relatively close. And I think some people stay at, if I've got the right one, Winnerish Triangle, where there's a travel lodge that's relatively cheap as well. But we like High Wycombe. There's a decathlon there if you ever needed some very quick kind of sporting goods before turning to Tough Mudder. Really fantastic barbecue place. I can't remember the name of it at this moment in time. But yeah, that's where we all hang out. We are in the travel lodge, and it's relatively cheap to say. I think it's 15 miles to Henley from there.
Wow. 30 years ago, it'd be about 30 years ago, I actually stayed just around the corner from Fawley. And I'll tell you where it is in a minute, but it is still, for me, the best hotel I have ever stayed in. Now, it is quite expensive, okay, and it's called the Danesfield House Hotel. So
that already sounds expensive just by the name.
Oh, it was. We actually stayed in the most expensive room in the hotel, and I can probably say this now because it probably doesn't work for him anymore. But one of my friends, Colin, was head chef down there, and he said, "Come and stop up here for the night, and I'll book you a hotel room free of charge." Well, the best hotel in the room at £3,500 was available per night, and if you ever go to Danesfield House, you go through a big arch. It's like a bit like a castle with a big arch, and up one side is one room of the arch, and up the other side is another room, and at the top is like the old suite. So there's two staircases, and we had that room. It was absolutely amazing, and the best meal I ever had. So if anyone wants to splash out, check out Danesfield House Hotel and Spa. You can actually walk it to the to Fawley from there. I think it's less than 2 miles. So check it out.
I'm just looking at that on the map, and as you say, around that area is so beautiful. Henley is lovely, and then you kind of go through the village of Marlow, which is also beautiful. So there's most likely some really, really nice / expensive places to stay. Maybe you want to go and splash out in Fawley. But I kind of slum it in the travel over the year of all the other Tough Mudders. So. And you can get twin rooms there now. You never used to be able to, but twin rooms in the travel lodge in High Wycombe.
Wow, love it. Do you? I mean, I'm going to presume that you just go down on a Friday, come back up on late Sunday, so you don't know around there what's happening. I mean, the towns around there. We know that Henley-on-Thames is literally on the doorstep of it. You've mentioned where you're staying and that, but there's so many nice places around there, and of course, London. What's London, about an hour away?
Probably less than that, to be honest. You can probably get on the Elizabeth line at some point, either from Slough or Maidenhead or somewhere, and it's 40 minutes or something. So it is very close to London. It's probably, when we always laugh about kind of that race, even though it says it's London, it's actually like Eton or whatever. This actually is probably as close as you can get to London without it being London. For a geography point of view, it's good enough.
Cool. Will, thank you very much for coming in and talking about London West. Do you want to tell our listeners your code? I know you will have a code. I'm going to assume that you know it off by heart because none of my guests so far have known it off by heart. So do you know yours off by heart, or do we
I
come
do.
back to it later?
It's TMBA 25-Will. That gets people 20% off their tough. I think it's still only their first. They kind of change it. Sometimes it's been for any tough. Generally, it is your first Tough Mudder or your first. Unfortunately, there's no discount code for Toughest Mudder at the moment, so please, no one ask. But yeah, maybe it'll come out, and I think you just need to get in. The Holy Grail Pass is probably the best and cheapest way in doing it. Or of course, you can't get your tattoo anymore. But actually, the Season Pass Plus is still fantastic value. It's to get all your infinities. Europe's Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder. You get your brunch as well, I think, as part of that. That's £1. If you're a Tough Mudder honk like me, it's worth every pound.
I think it's 800 now. So the Tough Mudder Season Pass is 800 now. However, if you just do WTM, that's currently 350. So straight away you're fetching it right down. It's worth every penny. I've got to admit, I'm with you on this, Will. It is worth every penny. I've got mine, unfortunately I don't take full advantage of it and everything else, but it's worth every penny. Now, if someone wants to go and have a look at London West or any Tough Mudders, your YouTube channel, Will, is the place to go. No matter what anyone says, your YouTube channel is the place to go. You have every event for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm going to turn around and say, how do they find it?
It's actually really simple. It is youtube.com/Will Chung, but all you have to do is just type in like Tough Mudder London West or whatever event that you're looking for, and no doubt I will turn up. And if people don't know who I am, how do you not know? But I'm the Chinese guy, and there's not many Chinese guy that does obstacle racing, so you'll know it's my video if you see a Chinese guy. It's usually in red but yeah, I'm very fortunate now that because I have done so many Tough Mudder videos, YouTube now pushes me up. Tough Mudder London West, I should appear.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Always love to come in to talk about Tough Mudder.
Get your teeth into some science with a caffeine kick that works 3 times faster than gels, drinks, or pills. Caffeine bullets have been shown to boost your endurance by up to 6% and help reduce pain and fatigue so you can run faster for longer. Whether you're training for High Rocks, OCR, or 5K or an Ultra, caffeine bullets have your back. They'll help you train harder and push for that personal best. And here's the cool science part: buccal absorption. The caffeine is absorbed through your cheeks and gums as you chew, hitting your bloodstream in just 5 minutes. Perfect for getting that energy burst right when you need it. Ready to crush your next race? Use code UKOCR at checkout for 20% off and go smash your PB. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yorkshire, 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 the greatest county in the world. And I'm sure my guest today, Michelle Carney, fellow Yorkshire person, is going to agree with me. Michelle, welcome to Yorkshire.
God's own country.
That's it. There is no other. It is like a country in its own. In a country, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely. It's even got its own language.
Right, we've done this on. I think in England, there's only us and the Cornish that have his own language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We've got you on to talk about Yorkshire Tough Mudder. A little bit about it, part of our series. And I thought, when we were talking about it, who can I get on? Which ambassador do I get on to talk about Yorkshire? And I thought, well, there is only one, isn't there? Fellow Yorkshire person, you. So here we are. Skipton this year, same as every year. Up north. We call Skipton. It is in Yorkshire, originally in Yorkshire, isn't it? Initially. But it's actually closer to Lancashire, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in good old Tough Mudder style. They've stretched the boundaries as well as they possibly can, and they put it right on the edge of Yorkshire.
I'm sure when you run to the top of the hill, you're actually in Lancashire at the top of the hill.
The top of the hill, that hill just keeps going.
Yeah. So it's happening on 26th and 27th of July this year.
It is.
drought and all, if no one's been there, beautiful place. I've got to admit, when it comes to venues, I love Yorkshire, not because it's in Yorkshire, but I love Yorkshire because I like the event village, how it feels enclosed. You know, like when you go to some of the other Tough Mudders, they seem to be very spread out. The Yorkshire event village seems to be like, it's like a little house, it's like a little cottage.
It has a proper festival vibe, Yorkshire. It's one of the few events where people, providing the weather is okay, and let's be fair, you will have all the seasons in one weekend. In fact, in one day, you will have all the seasons. But when the weather's nice, people really do hang around at Yorkshire because it is a really good venue to have and a really good event village vibe.
It is. I mean, the only thing, when I think of Yorkshire, the only downside I see for Yorkshire is sometimes the spectators don't get to see the whole venue in terms of they've got to do a little bit of walking to get up that hill and see it. It's worth it, but for anyone who doesn't want to walk, it is a little bit far, isn't it?
Yeah, the last couple of years, though, they've started to put the real spectator obstacles down at the bottom of the hill so that people haven't got to hike all the way up that hill. Because for those who haven't done Yorkshire before, the law of physics does not apply. What goes up does not come back down. The ups are up, the downs are up, and even the straights are on a camber, so even they're up.
That is actually right. That is a fact, without any doubt. That is a fact. I can never remember running downhill. Oh, no, I do remember one downhill. No, there is one downhill at Yorkshire, and that's that little farm track that if you're not careful, you end up coming down at 90 miles an hour, but it is only about 40 meters long.
That's the reason why you don't remember running downhill, because the mud is very special at Yorkshire, and it's very clayey, and it's very slippy. So most of the time, you just penguin slide and just slide down the hill rather than run down it, because it's probably safer and easier and faster.
I remember my first ever Tough Mudder was at Yorkshire, and I went with a guy called Gavin Coles, and I didn't know what to expect when I went. This is where they had King of the Swingers, you know, the real proper King of the Swingers, when you jumped from like 5 meters up in the air to a bar that you were going to struggle to get hold of and trying to bell. And I remember they put the walls, like the Berlin walls, and that at the bottom of the hill. But to get to them, you actually came down the hill to them. And if you hadn't to put the walls at the bottom,
they were like a break.
Continue to slide. Yeah, they were there. They were a crash barrier. That's what they were there for, because you like end up sliding down this hill in the mud on your bum all the way down. And if them walls had not been there, I'd have slid all the way home. I'm sure I would have.
They're just a run-off. They're not an obstacle. They're a run-off.
So let's talk a little bit about it. We just get into it. The course, but it doesn't often change at Yorkshire, does it? It seems to be very, very similar every time I've been.
Yeah, the only difference really, last year, they sent us around it backwards. So we went up the hill where we would normally come down. And on those who know the course regularly, what is known as the Land Rover climb, where you go up the bit that they actually use as a Land Rover experience day, that you came down that, whereas normally we go up that. And I was very thankful to be coming down it rather than up it, because that's probably the worst part of the course.
Yeah, you're quite right. Do you think they did that last year purely because it was Europe's toughest mudder and they wanted to get the hill out of the way fairly fast, fairly quickly, or?
I don't know. They never actually said why they've done it. I think they were just trying to change it up a bit. But yes, ETM was there last year, as we both know, because we both suffered on that hill all night. And we did run it in reverse for ETM as well.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'd not even thought about it until you actually mentioned that it was in reverse. No matter how many times I'd done it, I never even thought it was in reverse. I'm thinking, actually, it was, because you normally finish coming through them little woods. And then there's Everest, and then Corney and Electric Shop. But yeah, it was completely opposite. We went round through them woods to start with, which was strange running through there with no obstacles. Yeah,
it was weird doing it in reverse. And like I say, it was weird going down the Land Rover climb, but preferable.
I like Yorkshire because they tend to put Funky Monkey or some other the obstacle that you would over water right at the very top of the hill.
Yeah.
And you just don't get a chance to actually appreciate the views unless there's a little bit of a queue. And there tends never to be a queue at the top of the hill because no one's brave enough to chase anyone up there. So
yeah, it's a hill and a half, but absolutely, listeners, stop at the top of the hill, take a moment. They used to put a sign up there saying, take a breath and enjoy the view, and do it, because it is stunning at the top of the hill. And once you've flogged your guts out to get up there, you deserve a reward, because it's a hill and a half.
Exactly. Mud Mile. I remember Mud Mile up there, because Mud Mile is probably one of the deepest mud miles
I would say
remember.
It is my favourite mud mile of all of the events. Yes, it has probably fewer hills than some, but they're normally much higher and much deeper. But the best part of mud mile at Yorkshire is the exit, because it literally turns into a slip and slide, and it is so much fun. So many people just like hang around at the end, just sliding around on the exit before you actually go off and carry on with the race. That exit of Mud Mile is iconic and a lot of fun. They've actually now started putting hay bales against the fence as crash barriers, because that many people just slide around on it for fun that they were sliding into the fences. So they now put hay bales against it to account for us all sliding around like idiots.
Definitely. I think anyone who's seen the videos on social media from Tough Mudder of people just normally walking and slipping and sliding a little bank, that's the Yorkshire Tough Mudder. That's the
always
Yorkshire Mile.
Yeah. I've got a video of my daughter at her first one, looking like she's trying to walk on ice as she keeps getting to her feet, skidding all over the place, falling back down again, and we're all just laughing hysterically at her.
Exactly. When we talk about Yorkshire, we talk about the mud. The mud is quite thick up there. And I was talking to Will about London West, and he was saying it's very dry up there. You can get away in trail shoes. Now, from your experience, I'm going to suggest getting the deepest lugs you can possibly find. You're going to need them at Yorkshire. It's muddy. It's wet. Even the grass seems to be muddy.
Yes, it is. There's sections that are really dry, and there's sections that are Yorkshire slate. So yes, you need the deep slugs, but be warned, deep slugs do not grip on the Yorkshire slate. So when you're trying to go up the Land Rover climb and that section, watch your footing, because if you've got deep lugs to account for the mud, you're going to struggle on that section.
Definitely. And Kiss of Mud, I remember it always being rocky, and like not with like tiny rocks, big rocks, and you need a little bit of purchase on that because it's super muddy, because they put it in the place where it's muddy to start with.
Yeah,
and
each time, the one obstacle I never thought I would get stuck in was Kiss of Mud. And for some reason, I got in the middle and I was like a beached whale. I just couldn't grip onto anything. I was just sliding everywhere on my stomach. Thankfully, a fellow mudder came behind and gave me a shove, because I was literally just sliding in the mud. But yeah, some of the time the rocks are handy because it's something to get purchase on in that sliding mud. But there are normally some fairly big boulders in there that you need to watch your knees on.
Definitely. I love York. I love Yorkshire event. It's more one of my favourite ones. And this year ETM was last year ETM was absolutely fantastic. One of the things I do like about Yorkshire is the camping area, because usually at the camping area it tends to be just pushed off to the side, a little bit off to the side somewhere and hidden away and that. But at Yorkshire, apart from one year, they seem to have always had it right next to the village, shielded by some of the woods, in that little section. And it just felt really cozy and nice.
For the last few years, as you go over the cattle walk on the way in, it's been on the left-hand side on the way in, and there's always a really good vibe for camping at Yorkshire. It's one of those events that, even though there are hotels and B&Bs around, it really does attract a good camping vibe, because like you said, the location's normally great, it's close to the village, there's plenty of space for it there, and Broughton Hall are more than happy for them to have those campers on there. So there's normally a really good vibe. So it's always a good place to try. And it's 25 quid, round about 25 quid for the weekend. So cheaper and a good vibe and a good chance to catch up with people and get to know the community if you don't, because the community are really welcoming. So if you're not part of the Tough Mudder community and you don't normally camp, get yourself down there and you will absolutely be looked after by the regulars.
Without a doubt. For people who are not camping, now I stopped in a caravan that had lodges in a place very, very close to it. So I can't remember the name of it. I will sort it out and I'll put it into the link to people into the description. But a great caravan site with lodges. I think the lodges were only £75 a night to rent out, so quite good. Now, you mentioned there's a couple of hotels nearby. Michelle?
Yeah, on the way in, depending which way you come in, about 3 miles away from the venue, there's a travel lodge on one side near. It's on the roundabout near where the Burger King is. If you remember, on the way in, there's a travel lodge there, and then about 3 miles out on the other side, there's a Premier Inn. So if people don't want to slum it and camp or stay in a caravan, there's those. But you are right in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales. So there's plenty of Airbnbs, there's plenty of bed and breakfasts. Like you said, there's plenty of lodges, caravans. You are not short for accommodation in the area.
No. And Skipton's a beautiful town. Do you get a chance to trip into Skipton while you're up there?
I have been into Skipton, yeah. And there's also, if people are going to stay longer, there's also a lot of really beautiful walks in the area. Malham Cove, for example, isn't far away. If you're really brave and want to tag the Yorkshire Three Peaks on there, you're in the heart of all that as well. So there's plenty to do in the area if you like to be out in nature.
Oh, right. I think Ingleburgh's only, I think it's 16 miles exactly from the venue. So 30-minute drive and, you're there, aren't you?
Yeah, all of the highest peaks in Yorkshire are all right on the doorstep if you fancy them individually or you want to be brave and do all three. There's plenty to do in the area. There's the Blue John Slate Mine. There's the underneath Ingleborough. There's the caves underneath Ingleborough. There's so much to do in the area. It's a really beautiful location.
Fantastic. And we've got a full weekend this year. We have got 5K there, 10, 15K there. Infinity on the Saturdays there as well.
Infinity is on the Saturday, and it is part of the Endurance League for anybody who wants to do it. Yorkshire is also part of your league, the UK OCR League, and if people want to do both, they can. They can do the UK OCR League lap as their first lap of Infinity, and then carry on for as many miles as they want to do to add towards the Endurance League. It's also, Infinity is one of the qualifiers for Holy Grail, with us having Worlds in the UK this year. So there's a lot going on at Yorkshire and a lot to get involved in.
Oh, so much. And before we go, Michelle, what's your code? Do you know your code? Because I've had 4 guests on so far. You're my 4. Now, 2 of them could never remember it. One of them, I don't even tell his name. He remembers it straight off. So do you know your code, Michelle?
I mean, good luck to anybody who don't know it, because it's literally your name. So if they don't know it, they're in trouble. So it is TMBA, so T for Tango, M for Mike, B for Bravo, A for Alpha, 25, and then hyphen, so the little line in the middle, followed by Michelle. That's mine. If you do know any other ambassadors, just replace Michelle for their first name and you'll have their code as well. But mine is TMBA 25 hyphen Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. And for anyone who's running, I'm going to be there at the Infinity at Yorkshire. That's my plans. Anyone knows me, I'm doing the Endurance Series this year, with the exception of one event that I'm not allowed to do because I've been race directing. But anyway, that's me. So hopefully I will see everyone there. Michelle, thank you very much for popping on. It's much appreciated as always.
Just as a shout out to anybody who is going, we are going to be there as part of Team B. B is trying to get the Holy Grail this year. So we are doing Infinity. It's tough at Yorkshire. If anybody sees us, give us a shove, give us a kick, give us a pull, shove us over an obstacle. We will be very grateful.
Cheers, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Thanks all. Bye.
Yep.
So, I'll just, whenever you go, shall I go now? Are we ready?
It's recording. That can be a blooper.
No, stop now, because I've got it in my head what I was going to say now, and you've completely and utterly thrown me now on that.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I die.
Thank you for listening to the UK OCR podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast today. If you like what we do, please think about joining our Patreon. It only costs £2 a month, and it goes to help supporting us to put these podcasts on. Or, if you fancy a one-off payment, just buy us a beer. The links to both are in the description. In the meantime, you stay safe and you keep on running, everyone, and I'm sure we'll see you on the course soon. Take care. Bye.